What's up, Scyushi Squad? We are back in more Trove and a momentous occasion because we are going to be ending the 36K series with the Knight. That's right. We're going to be playing on the Knight, the class that started it all. Now, generally speaking, before we get into today's video, I personally think that if there's any classes that need a rework desperately in this game, it's going to end up being the Gunslinger at the moment because it hasn't changed since day one, basically. And then the Knight. The Knight actually ended up getting a rework at some point or another, but I think that it deserves another rework because as of right now, it just doesn't really compensate as much as you would like it to. But with the Shadowhunter update, we also had a lot of classes end up getting slight changes. And the Knight, oh my God, the Knight actually got some significant buffs. So I'm actually very excited about today's video because I haven't actually tested the changes with the Knight. So we're kind of going to be doing an experiment together ourselves. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to take the Knight into U10 geode surface just to, for the sake of consistency. I know we have geode or U10 of prime worlds and stuff like that, but geode surface is kind of a very good common denominator. Is that the right way to use that term? I don't know, because of the fact that it is going to end up having a lot more resistance to our damage. So by having a higher light value, we're still going to end up doing less damage in geode surface versus in prime worlds and so on and so forth. But anyways, let's have a quick word from today's sponsor, GameAgo. Hello everyone, it is I, the black and white Solarian. I almost considered drawing like crayon all over this thing just to have it colored. I'm sorry, GameAgo, okay? I don't have a colored printer. Ink is expensive. So anyways, if you guys didn't already catch it, we do have a special contest going on over on TikTok with the hashtag Trove Cosplay, hashtag cosplay, and hashtag gaming. What the Trove Cosplay contest wants you to do is basically go to the link that I'm going to have in the description, and then you can end up downloading a PDF of this beautiful Solarian mask. Normally it's all colored, and of course you're supposed to do it with construction paper so that it's going to end up being a little bit more solid instead of this. But the point is that you are supposed to create this mask, and then on TikTok you're going to end up posting a video of you messing around with the mask out in public. I don't know if they're trying to end up having it so that you embarrass yourself or whatever. I don't have a TikTok because I'm old. I do plan on entering the contest myself just for fun. But the really cool thing about this is that there is a cash prize for both first and second place, which is going to end up being 1,000 euros. That's insane. So the number one winner is going to end up being the person with the most likes by the closing date of the event. So winners will be announced September 16th. And I think you have to have your submission in by August 28th. I'll put text on the screen if I'm wrong about that. However, the second winner is actually going to be picked by a jury. So the jury is going to end up being made up of some people over at GameAgo and apparently some certain influencers, which I know for a fact that I am part of that judgment. On top of the money aspect, I do think that this event sounds really, really fun, and I'm excited to end up doing some reaction videos to some of your guys' cosplay entries. I'm sure someone's gonna go crazy and end up designing like a full cosplay costume instead of me with this lazy hat. Also, the other thing too, just to criticize my look, normally these ears are actually supposed to be on my face. Yep. Lastly, I want to give a huge thank you to GameAgo and thanks to you guys, because with you guys watching all my videos, it pretty much influenced GameAgo to end up reaching out to me about this contest in the first place. But let's get back to the video, the 36K video. Oh, it's hot. Let's actually talk about the changes to the class before we end up actually getting into speed farming and so on and so forth. The other thing too that I wanted to mention before we finish up this series is that I know what you're thinking. I know it's like, why is this so late? Why are we still talking about 36K when much higher power rank exists? And that's because what happens with this Sunrise update is we basically get a huge bump up in power rank and crystal gems. So this is going to be the last time that you'll see me do a video talking about the absolute best that you can end up being, or very, very close to being absolutely perfected with the Knight, for example, before you get into crystal gems, because that is the true end game and is extremely expensive even for somebody like me. Now, anyways, let's get into it. So movement speed when attacking has been increased, so we can actually move a lot now while we're actually swinging our bat around. Still hate the base attack animation of this guy. Basic attack damage has been increased to 455%, up from 250%. Retribution, which is going to end up being, that's our passive, right? Yeah, our passive. So the passive is that every time the knight takes damage, they store up retribution that can increase the damage of their next attack. This can stack up to 3 times, dealing additional damage for each stack. Base attacks reduce targets outgoing damage by up to 10%. So it basically tag an enemy, they get weaker, right? But they changed it so that retribution's effect has been added. So every time the knight takes damage, they will store up retribution. That increases it. Basically, it says the exact same thing that I just ended up reading, but additional attacks will also refresh the debuff. It basically added a much better description for this ability, and just the functionality of it is a little bit better. Frankly speaking, I don't know what it was before, but let's just pretend that I did. Damage reduction of the passive has been increased to 10%, up from 5%. Smash damage, which is going to end up being your right click, has actually had a significant increase. So the damage of that is up to 850% damage, up from 600% damage. Duration of smash is taunt. So if we smash an enemy, it'll actually taunt them. I wish that that was affected by attack speed, because seriously, that is atrocious. Atrociously slow. Just making sure I have attack speed on all my gear. So the duration has been increased to 4.5 seconds, up from 3 seconds. Charge damage, which we're not going to be able to get to see today. Generally speaking, the charge is a really, really nice ability if you're trying to speed farm with this guy. But charge damage has been increased to 650% damage, up from 450. Duration of charge's taunt has been increased to 2 seconds, up from 1. Spirit Squire, this is going to end up being the replacement of charge, our classroom ability, right? Yeah. Spirit Squire damage is increased to 850% damage, up from 800% damage. And then our ultimate, duration of Iron Will, has been increased to 12 seconds, up from 10. And the damage reduction of Iron Will has been up to 25% from 10%, which is actually like good. An actual defensive ability that's actually functional. My God, dude, I never thought I'd see the day. So our movement speed, unfortunately, is only at 111. And as you can see, our mount movement speed is down to 90, because that's right, we are on the knight. So we can't use the knight's subclass ability. We actually have to compensate by using other subclass abilities, which I don't know which one I would end up wanting to use. The Solarian's a good one. Fey Trickster's really good. They ended up actually buffing a lot of the subclass abilities overall, but I think it's always just kind of a standard one that we could use sort of crazy. I think we'll stick with the Fey Trickster, just because that's going to end up giving us extra damage. Or, you know what? Let's use the Candy Barb. It's not going to trigger super duper often, but generally speaking, when it does trigger, we'll get an attack speed buff and so on and so forth. But anyways, looking at the damage already just on these base enemies, my God, they've made this character so much stronger, dude. Like that would have not been a thing. You would have not been able to get through, even kill 30 enemies. I know that seems pathetic, without just using your #1 class gem ability, dude. Like, that is pretty much the meat and potatoes of this class, was always using this, which, as you can see, deals so much freaking damage. Like, that was 60 mil each. And keeping in mind, I do not have like a fully maxed out class gem or anything. In fact, oh, it's got good stats on it. Oh, it's pretty good. Oh, it is maxed out. Huh. I didn't think that I bothered. Well, that's kind of weird. Anyways, as you can see, the big thing that we're suffering with right now already is the fact that speed farming is just out of... there's no question. You can't speed farm as this guy, unfortunately. Because speed farming is basically going to be broken down into 2 sectors. I mean, it's not like it's bad, you know, when we end up having Pyrodisc, have our ally trigger, and so on and so forth, we can end up using Trailblazing at the same time, and we got a decent amount of movement speed, but it's really inconsistent because you have to have everything trigger, right? So where the knight suffers is travel time, because the 2 main aspects of speed farming is how fast can you get from point A to point B, and then how fast can you end up defeating the enemies, which the enemies, you can see, is no problem. We seem to be doing absolutely fine in that regard, which I'm very, very happy with. My God, like, I can't get over the fact that we're actually dealing so much damage as this guy right now. It's crazy. That was 80 mil with using Marshall. Really curious to see how he's going to handle himself in the delves. But anyways, normally what we would end up doing is just you spam your number 1 ability, but frankly speaking, you wouldn't need to based on just using your normal attack. It's a lot faster than just using your class ability, which is kind of hilarious. Obviously, the class ability is going to end up dealing more damage, but I don't know whether or not it's going to be worthwhile to use the Squire versus your melee attack. It depends on the enemy that you're fighting and so on and so forth, I guess. But anyways, Knight is going to suffer with the speed aspect. As far as the damage is concerned, absolutely fine. I'm very, very pleased with this. I'm very, very surprised. I want to see how much damage I actually can do with my right click. Let's just try it on a random enemy right here. Okay, that was just killed by Pyro Disc. Can I get... Okay, maybe we won't get to test it until we end up getting into the delves, which I realized that I didn't end up starting my timer. So we'll probably... You know what? I think we can skip the rest of today's, geode surface because, frankly speaking, we know we've got the damage. We also just know the fact that we are super duper slow, and that's why I would avoid using the Knight more in geode surface than I would like to. Now, that said, of course, you have to factor in the new 5-star dungeons and how that works, but I'll probably have a different video that's going to show the quality of different classes in the new 5 stars because they're essentially going to end up being infinite dungeons. But I would say that the Knight could end up being in there perfectly fine. Frankly speaking, I'm a little disappointed that I have my class gem maxed out because I think that at the moment right now, with the base attack and the other abilities being buffed up a lot, I think that it would compensate for the Squire. So obviously the Squire, it phases through enemies and it deals a lot of damage. Yes, that's definitely an appeal to it. But frankly speaking, we're dealing 31 mil per melee attack here. And if I use the Squire, we're doing 58. So it's essentially double the damage, but we can do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 attack speed. This doesn't scale off of attack speed is my only gripe. And so my point is that I think that the Knight, as of right now, might be more beneficial to get rid of its classroom ability for the sake of having the dash. Like, the charge dash is really, really good for speed farming because you can kind of just use it over and over again. And if you have like a good energy recharge on this guy, it can be decent. It's not fantastic. It's not like super duper great movement speed or anything like that, but it definitely gives you that little extra oomph that you would want. Versus what's going on right now where we are not really using the Squire. I mean, that said, we're still going to end up doing the real damage test when we end up getting to the boss itself. But as far as just dealing with these normal delve enemies, this is kind of a joke. Like, I cannot stress how surprised I am at the Knight being so functional, because the funny thing is the Knight was always a pretty decently strong class despite the fact that nobody wants to main it. And I think that the reason for that, sorry Knight mains, I know that there's not many of you guys, I think the main reason nobody wants to main the Knight is most of all just because its abilities feel very lackluster and very boring. Like, that's the reason. It's not necessarily because of anything other than that. Like, to me, the Knight just looks like a teapot. Like, it looks stupid. Like, I would like to have a replacement character for this guy where it's a proper Knight. You know, he's like taller and actually has like cooler animations and stuff, because you gotta consider that the Knight visually is going to end up staying very true to how it was originally, which you can see Trove was a very different time with the Knight. Like, you know, it's a very weird class when you look at how it is comparatively to the other characters. Probably want to be using Unyielding rather than, you know what, maybe we would end up using Zealous. Yeah, because then we could end up using our number 1 over and over again, because I still think that that's probably where all of our damage is going to be. So we can see right now, if we end up popping in a flask, we've got an average of, let's say, 175. Yeah, 175 mil is what we got to. So what if we end up just using our base attack? It goes way over that, like way over that. So yeah, the classroom ability is actually useless on this guy. That's really surprising. Now, we've got a lot of life steal because I'm using Vampirium instead of using Berserk. But hey, whatever, you know. Generally speaking, that's most of all just to show you guys survivability, because as far as delves are concerned, you can do one of two things. You either have so much damage that you kill the enemies before they hurt you, or you have so much survivability that you can tank out the damage and kill everything. But I'm actually very pleasantly surprised with that, and a little bit a little bit flabbergasted because, frankly speaking, where the knight is right now, his base attack seems to be the strongest ability. Like, his right click needs to scale off attack speed because otherwise it's useless. Same with the squire, frankly speaking, it should scale off of attack speed because as of right now, his class gem is useless. Kind of sucks, honestly speaking, that I have my class gem maxed out. But I don't know, maybe they'll change that, but it's just devs, please. I again think that the class just needs an overall rework. All of its abilities need to end up being completely changed. Maybe its ult is going to end up being okay for survivability, but generally speaking, it's, you know, it's the same animation as popping a flask, dude. It's dumb. But anyways, as far as how do I think this character fits, can you main it? Yes, most definitely you can main the knight. Knight mains Rejoice because this class is definitely a lot funner now with these changes because, frankly speaking, this is why I think that the knight needs a rework, is because you know it's bad when the base attack of a class is its funnest property. Yeah. Anyways, yep, you can definitely main it. Very cool character. I still think that it needs to be completely overhauled in order to end up being something that is a lot more fun and a lot more viable. But as of right now, it definitely has a lot more damage than some other classes, which is really, really interesting. And the ultimate ability does end up putting a shield on other players, which can end up negating that damage as well. So if you want to be a tank, you actually can, which is surprising because Trove and tank in the same sentence, like, dang, dude. But yeah, I'd be really interested to see somebody using a knight in U11 just because of the enemies hitting so hard. Anyways, smash like, sub for more, buy the merch you want, support the channel, and have a wonderful day, everybody.